The Radio Forest Podcast.
Hey, Forrest, Joe Gatto.
Joe Gatto, how are you, man?
Good, buddy. How's things?
Things are doing good. What's going on with the Two Cool Moms podcast? Haven't heard you guys for a while.
I know. We're waiting for this deal to close so we can bring it to iHeart. And it's been painstakingly long, but it looks like it'll be closing up this month, so we'll be back in April, I'm hoping.
So do you still record stuff in the meantime, or you just kind of put the brakes on hold, do some touring?
We put the brakes on. We have 7 in the hopper. They're already done. So when we launch, we'll have a month and a little bit of runway. Mm-hmm. And then we'll jump back into it. So.
Now, you've got comedian Steve Byrne on that with you, the co-host. He was on season 10 of Impractical Jokers, and you weren't. Was that awkward at all? Did you guys talk about it?
No, I was on it for 10 years without him.
That's fair enough point.
Yeah, no, all's good there. Steve's a great guy. He's friends with all of us. So, yeah.
And you're still good with the Impractical Jokers guys, right? I've seen you pop on stage, or they've made surprises with you. You still hang out and talk. I mean, you guys have known each other for so long.
Yeah, had nothing to do with them, so it's all good. We were, Q was at my show this weekend. Dal came to my special on Friday. So it's been great. They're my boys. We're just not friends from work anymore. That's what I say.
Yeah, and you talked about how, the reason to step away was more personal, to do with your family, and it looks like you really enjoy being a dad. I struggle with it sometimes. What's the key to maintaining such a positive attitude? I mean, I know that's a pretty generic question.
Well, no, I mean, everybody's got to find their own method to their madness. I think for me, it really is. I was always struggling with the balance, and I really have come to the realization, really, that balance is pretty unattainable. And the best that you could do is really when you're doing whatever you're doing, spend your mind space in that moment. What I mean by that is when I'm a dad. Like I'm with my kids, and I'm concentrating on being the best version of that. When I'm at work, when I'm being a comedian, I'm concentrating on being on that. And I think that's the only way to really not drive yourself insane and put too much pressure and crack by trying to juggle it all at once.
What kind of parents were your parents? Is it drastically different, or have you carried on a lot of the things that you learned as a kid?
I carried on a lot. I lost my dad when I was 19. So he had a big impact on my life in a short amount of time. And, my parents were always, I came from a very loving household. Their marriage is great and stuff, but I lost dad young. So I think that really presses the importance of me on, being a present father and making memories with them as best I can, as long as we're together having fun, teaching them life lessons, and, just being the best version of a father I could be.
How do you share the legacy of your dad? My mom passed away. I've got 2 young kids, and I find it important. I want to talk about her so they grow up having that memory, even though they'll never meet her. How do you do that with your kids, since it was so long ago? I'm sure you share pictures and stories, or how does that come across?
Stories. Yeah, stories mostly. I mean, they never met my mom either. My mom passed away 11 years ago. So when we talk about my mom, I mean, I still feel like my father and mother are alive. I celebrate them every day, think of them every day. We talk about them constantly, with my siblings and nieces and nephews. But with the kids, I talk about them all the time. They're very curious about my parents because they see me and my in-laws live with us. So they have grandma and grandpa in their life very much from that side. So they wonder about my parents too. So it's fun to keep them alive through storytelling and sharing of memories or keeping up traditions. Like my mom used to sing to me Bushel and the Peck every night before we went to bed. So we do that. We sing Bushel and the Peck to the kids. It's fun to have them alive that way.
What books are you reading? Are you reading Where's Bearry? What do they ask for?
Yeah, Where's Bearry? I'm writing Where's Bearry, based on a story where my son had lost his bear one night and had a complete meltdown. We had to go on a hunt for it. It's inspired by true events. It's a cheeky call out to, Where's Larry, of course. And it's fun. It's a great book coming out September 3rd, available for pre-order now. And it got illustrated by a great illustrator, Luke Flowers, who was a fan of Joker. So he put a bunch of Easter eggs in the book, which is real fun. And I'm just very happy with the way it came out.
Was any of this inspired by, and I'm just thinking of my own life and the books that I have to read, was any of it ever some of these books aren't my favorite. They're not enjoyable to read. I think I could write a pretty good kid's story. Or was it more of the story came first and you wanted to share that? I'm
a creative writer. That was my first love ever. When I was young, 12 to 16, I was writing stories and things of that nature. And then I've become a storyteller in my comedy. And I just enjoy that part of it all to entertain. So when this happened, I was like, oh, it would be fun. And I had worked in the kids space for a while. Before Jokers, I worked the baby store industry for almost 10 years, 8 years, I guess it was. And I had been selling a bunch of kids' books, always had an affinity for children's books, loved it. Now I read them with my kids, and I was like, oh, it's just a very organic fit to my journey right now, and it just felt really good.
I also heard that you were quite the salesman. Like, you really were good. You were like the top guy making a ton of money. Talk about the skills and how well you did, because it just feels like it's a lot of personal skills, reading people, and then sort of performing in front of them. Kind of a little bit of stand-up. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I mean, I will say my workforce life before Jokers prepared me to talk to strangers, which is a lot of that show was. It was basically just striking up conversations with strangers and pulling them into your web.
Yeah.
But sales, I just always came naturally. My father was an insurance salesman, vice president of his company. He was very good. So I think it's in my genes. I'm a talker. I love talking to people. People talk to me pretty easily. You know, I'm humorous, so it's always been fun that way. And I'm kind of a straight shooter. Like, I used to sell I worked at Nordstrom's for a while, and I was selling men's apparel, and I would just shoot people straight. Like, if they came out of the room, and it was all commission, but if they came out of the room and it wasn't looking good, I wasn't going to be like, oh, we could. Then I'd be like, no, take that off. I think people appreciate that as well.
So then did you have to take, I imagine there's some sort of financial cut to start the Jokers, right? So you have to quit that job at some point. Or if there's a job in between Nordstrom's and the Jokers, there had to have been an adjustment, right? And I heard before when you guys first started, you didn't even have cable to watch your own show. So what was that shift like? Yeah, there was a big,
so I had left that baby store. I had worked my way up to be the training program manager for the company called Giggle. And I had taken my 2-week vacation to film the pilot. And then when the show got picked up, I needed 6 months. So I told the CEO, I told her I needed a 6-month hiatus. And she was like, oh, so you're quitting? I'm like, no, it's just a hiatus. She's like, no, you're going to go be a TV star. You're not coming back. And I was like, I didn't think it was going to pan out. You know, nobody ever does. Most of them don't. And I had to end up quitting. So I was the only one who quit my job. The rest of the guys were able to keep their gigs. Sal was a bartender, owned a bar. So he was able to do both. She was a fireman in New York, so he would work his 24s and come to the set. And then Murr was working for the production company that was producing the show, so he didn't lose his job. So I was all in. So I was like, this thing's got to work. And it made me jump in really into the production part of it and really feed that production bug I have always had. I always wanted to be a writer-director. That's what I'm going to be when I grow up, feature film. So it was like, you know, that really helped feed that. So I think that was the best part of that. It was I was able to jump into something full-fledged that I really wanted to do.
This wasn't your first shot though, right? This is not like an overnight success story. It goes way back with these guys, you know, to improv and stuff like that. So did you have anything before that you thought was the thing that was taking off?
No, I mean, yeah, we're an 18-year overnight success if you look at it on paper. You know?
Yeah, really easy.
Yeah, we had tried a bunch of stuff, and then we just couldn't find the format for TV that was ours. We'd had success in different arenas. You know, those guys, I really believe if we could accomplish anything, the four of us, we put our mind to. We were able to build plenty of formats that were fun. You know, we did Jokers, we did Misery Index, and then when we were able to pivot during COVID and create Dinner Party, which was my favorite show I think I've ever done. The guys loved that too, and it was really well received by everyone, which was just us sitting around eating dinner over Zoom and just telling stories and messing with each other. We just wanted to keep on making sure we provide laughter and escape for everybody because that's what we love to do, and that's what was needed, especially at that time in 2020, 2021. So I think that really is just like the way that I operate is really just like, okay, what can I do next that feels true to me and be able to entertain, and then stand-up presented itself. And I decided to give that a crack, and it's been such a great run. I've been doing it for 2 years and wrapping up this Night of Comedy, Joe Gatto's Night of Comedy tour. We'll be wrapped up the end of this month, and we'll see what's next.
Do you find writing for your stand-up fulfilling, or do you do a lot of sort of ad-libbing? Because you kind of have that sort of humor, too. Is it a mixture of both? That's got to be tough, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's a mixture of both. In the beginning, a lot of the writing was done through the ad-libbing. Like if I said something that was funny, I was recording the earlier shows and be like, oh, that was good. I'll put that in there. But I always leave room to ad-lib. If I think of something funny, I'll just say it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That was the biggest adjustment, was doing it all by myself. I'd always been part of a collaboration or a troupe. So to be up there by myself was the biggest thing. Performing live, I've always been doing. I'm not afraid of that at all. So that wasn't the part. The part was just to be by yourself and talk for 65 minutes. Because when I was doing the Jokers tours, like when we were doing the Impractical Jokers live tour, and I was part of that, you would just do it for, I talk for 25 minutes out of the 60, when you split everything up. That was the biggest adjustment for me.
Now, before I let you go, we got to talk about dogs. How many dogs do you have, and can you tell about the organization that you have?
Yeah, of course. Gatto Pups and Friends is a nonprofit we started, my wife and I, out here on Long Island. It's fantastic. We just had our 81st dog adopted. Butterscotch went home yesterday, so that's really fantastic. And I had started it we were just rescuing senior dogs here, and then we were like just collecting them. And I was like, well, we could probably do better. So we decided to start our own foundation out here on Long Island. And right now there's 9 dogs that are Gatto pups that are our dogs. And then there's the ones that are up for adoption that live in our sanctuary, anywhere from 10 to 16-ish. Dogs that just live with us and we're trying to find homes for.
What kind of structure do you have? I'm sure you had to purchase a place and then probably revamp that, or did you build on your own to house these dogs?
Yeah, we redid our basement to have some place for them to stay when they sleep here at the house. And then we have a business in town, which is nice in Glen Head, New York, where I live. And it's nice to be part of the community there and have a footprint. I was actually there today hanging out for a while. It's really nice to make it feel like people could come in off the street and see the dogs and visit. And we have people just come in and just spend time with the dogs. Like, it's kind of therapeutic. These senior dogs just sit there, want some pets and love. And, they're not really too high maintenance for the most part. So people just come in and hang out. It's really, really, really interesting how it's become such a big part of my life in a separate way now. It was a big part of my life at the house because I had these dogs, but now it's like we run a full nonprofit and it's just so rewarding.
Was that a thing as a kid? Were you always a pet guy, or did you always have dogs growing up? Was your family really into pets?
I had one dog, Midnight, for 16 years of my life. We got her when I was 1.
Wow.
And I had to put her down when I was 17. Yeah, so I had one dog. And then I didn't have any dogs really in between until we got our first dog. Bessie and I, we bought our first dog, Cannoli. And that was 10 years ago maybe at this point. And Cannoli had a lot of health issues, and it opened our eyes to the puppy mill situation and breeding, and also opened our eyes to shelters and all these dogs that need homes. And we just started rescuing. And we got our first rescue dog, Biscotti, who's my favorite. Don't tell the others. And we got a bunch of dogs named after Italian desserts and pasta dishes.
Of course. You got to. Now, with a couple of successful TV shows, a great comedy tour going on, sometimes adding second shows, and 2.4 million followers on Instagram, what's the hardest part of sharing so much of your life?
The hardest part, I would say, it was probably the adjustment of being in the public spotlight in the beginning, but mostly when I became a father and you get protective of your kids. That's probably the one that needs to be juggled the most. Protecting your kids from, sharing them enough so you can share your successes, and when they do things that you're thinking are brighten people's days. Like I'm not afraid to have them on social media to celebrate them and show how much fun we're having, because I think that helps people. It smiles and inspires people to spend time with their children, and it also, helps share my story, which is, my journey is pretty much public from the get-go, because I was always Joe on TV. I was never a character. I just played myself. My life was pretty much part of the show. Yeah, so I think the hardest part really is definitely the balance of trying to be a dad and not let your moments get interrupted when strangers come up and ask for a picture or stuff like that. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge.
And it's got to be a little bit tougher, too, for you, opposed to like a different celebrity, because you do come across as the local guy, the friend, the guy that's always joking and happy. So I bet people are like, oh, my God, I already know you. I can come up and touch you right away when you're having dinner.
Yeah, super approachable. It's crazy. I mean, there's part of it I love about it, too, because I'll meet people at the meet and greets or on the streets or whatever, and they'll, I do meet and greets after the show or whatever, and they'll just come up like, oh my God, you saved me. I have cancer. That's the first thing they say to me.
Oh, wow.
Hi.
Oh,
I'm Joe. But they're just so comfortable with you and want to share how you help them through these bad times that they've had. And that's really what's fueled my career. It's like I realize what I mean to people, and I realize what it does. And I've been through tough times where stuff has gotten me through. Like laughter really is the medicine, like just being able to mentally escape and, recalibrate. So I don't take that lightly. And I try to be there as best I can for people. But sometimes these people hit you with hammers and you're like, whoa. It's like,
you ought to pop back into Nordstrom's for like a weekend, a little like pop-in set, because you'd be killing it now. They'd be like, wait a minute. Oh my God. Yeah. I'll buy whatever it is, whatever you're selling me. I'll buy a tie. I'll buy a shirt.
Joe Gatto.
Yeah. You got to sign it. You're like, this is a $70 shirt. You don't want me to sign this. Yeah. Well, it's Joe Gatto from Impractical Jokers. The Two Cool Moms podcast is coming back. The children's book, Is Bearry, I believe you said that's coming out in September. Is that correct?
Available for pre-order now, but it comes out September 3rd.
Night of Comedy Tour is wrapping up. It's March 22nd in Boise at the Morrison Center. Joe Gatto, thank you so much for talking to me today, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you. It was really fun.